Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet Melbourne Cup preview. I'm going to do a real short and sharp runner by runner look at each horse set to line up in the Melbourne Cup this year, go through which runners I think can win and can't win. My whole philosophy over the last 11, 12 years now, betting full time on horse racing and sports, but especially looking at horse racing, has been to bet into races where I can really narrow it down to one or at most two chances and capitalize and attack those races. Every year, the Melbourne Cup definitely isn't that race. It's just the most popular race on the calendar. But you've got 24 horses lining up. And my biggest recommendation to everyone watching this is to not get carried away just because it's the Melbourne Cup. Just like, you don't need to have your biggest bet on the NRL Grand Final or the AFL Grand Final or the Super Bowl. There's, a few hundred games throughout the rest of the season to do lots of betting across. The same rule applies here. Don't have your biggest bet on the day on the Melbourne Cup race and let that one race determine your overall result just for the day or even for the week. So with that being said, the first thing I like to look at is the previous winners of the race and what it takes to win the Melbourne Cup. And this is something you can definitely do for any major group races, and especially, when there's a long history towards it, but especially look at the recent history as well. So these are the winners of the Melbourne Cup going back to 2013. Mark Zahra has won the past two in 2022 on Gold Trip and then 2023 without a fight. First thing you'll notice, the weight that these horses have carried over the past 4 years has all been between the 55.5 and 57 kilograms. Only Gold Trip was drawn a single digit barrier since rekindling back in 2017. This period here between 2016 and 2018, this was when there was a lot of the international horses coming over, getting in with light weights and being able to win those races. Then the settling position. Over the past 11 years, majority of winners have come from midfield or further back. There's only been two winners that have come from the front half of the field during the mid race, and that was Twilight Payment, who led all the way in 2020 when there was no crowd at Flemington. And then 2019, Val Declare had the box seat. Williams was able to hold the fence and get the bob of the heads late. Majority of the time, it's run on a good track, which is what we're expected to run on tomorrow. The other thing when you look at these runners is not only like where they've jumped from, where they've settled, is what they've done leading into winning the Melbourne Cup. So last year, without a fight, won, and it led into the race by winning the Caulfield Cup. Copped a 1 kilogram weight penalty, but was a dominant winner of the Caulfield Cup. Solcombe, who was the unlucky runner in last year's Melbourne Cup, ridden by Joe Moreira for Waller, also had its lead up going into in the Caulfield Cup, going into the Melbourne Cup. I think finished fifth in the Caulfield Cup last year. Then we had Gold Trip, who won in 2022. It had a little bit of a different lead up into the Melbourne Cup that it won in 2022. So it ran second in the Caulfield Cup, but then they also ran in the Cox Plate where it finished ninth, then came through that to win the Melbourne Cup, but did finish second in the Caulfield Cup as its run prior to the lead-in. That year, the horses that ran second and third were both the Bendigo Cup and Geelong Cup winners. So what we're seeing just over the past few recent years is your Caulfield Cup and your Bendigo and Geelong Cups are your key lead-in races. Very Elegant, who won in 2021 as an $18 chance. That year that it won that race, it led up with a third placing in the Cox Plate, and prior to that ran a fourth in the Group 1 Turnbull Stakes at Flemington. Twilight Payment won first up in Australia. It was its second attempt at the track, and then 2019 Val Declare won, as we just mentioned earlier. Its lead-in was second in the Caulfield Cup that year, being beaten by exactly one length, and it was a fairly bunch finish in that race, but Val Declare was able to get second place. So really focusing on those lead ups over the recent years, we've seen a strong emphasis on the Caulfield Cup. This year, the horses coming through those races, we've got a huge bunch coming from the Caulfield Cup, which is those 6 runners, and another 6 coming from the Moonee Valley Gold Cup. Both those races combined for half the field. And Bakaro ran second in the Caulfield Cup, coming from a long way back and just running out of time there, but did hit the line strongly. Land Legend ran third, also lines up and was up on speed, getting a soft run. Was keen during the run. Fancy Man, Valiant King, Circulus Fire, and Warp Speed round out the Caulfield Cup runners. And then Akita Sushi had a dream run in the Moonee Valley Cup. One out, one back, blended into the race, won well. Sharp and Smart, who ran third in that race, was a bit of a weird run. Was heavily under the whip, about 500 meters from home and dropping backwards, and then came with another run to run into third. St. George, the grey horse coming from the back, finished off well. Just Fine did lead that cup and is the expected leader in the Melbourne Cup tomorrow, and dropped out to run last over the 2,500 meters, and now needs to run an extra 700 meters. Your Geelong Cup winner, One Smooth Operator, was a pretty dominant winner of that race. Interpretation ran second. Both those horses have been the subject of vet checks leading into the Melbourne Cup. Both are cleared to run. One Smooth Operator got cleared for a cut on one of its hinds, and then Interpretation, there was issue with the gate, and they've got Equicast on for the first time. So not really ideal for either of those horses. And then the Bendigo Cup was won by Sea King, who was a dominant winner. Declan Bates rode that day. Holly Doyle takes the ride, gets barrier number 1 here, second up in Australia. Knight's Choice ran fifth there, making up ground from a soft run along the inside. The other races that lead in, Kovala was the only horse to go to the Cox Plate, which was won dominantly by Via Sistina. Kovala ran sixth. And then the St. Ledger back on the 19th of October, over 2,600 meters, won by Athabaskan. And Trust in You ran fourth in that race. Is a big outsider here. And then the interesting preparation, because mostly Cloudy's had about a month between runs. The interesting real runner here, Zardozi ran fourth in the Caulfield Cup, alongside these runners here. So you could technically say there's 7, horses come out of that race into this, but they gave Zardozi another run, running in the Group 1 Empire Rose on Saturday just gone. So it's on the super quick backup going Saturday into Tuesday. Was running 2,400 meters in the Caulfield Cup, back to 1,600 meters now, up to the 3,200. They dropped it out the back. Daniel Stackhouse took the ride that day. Adzini goes back on board, who rode in the Caulfield Cup. And they dropped it out the back, and Stackhouse has kept it along the inside. So I kind of got the feeling that was a bit of a barrier trail in a Group 1. Still a good run without really threatening to win, finishing 5th. Just very, very interesting tactics. So Zardozi's like that, runner with a big question mark on it based off the preparation that they have done here. And prior to its Caulfield Cup run, did run a 1-2 finish with Land Legend up in Sydney. The internationals, there's 2 of them first up in Australia. They both ran in this race last year, and that's Voban and Absurd. Jockey change on Absurd this time around. Zach Purden rode it last year, and Voban also has a jockey change. Ryan Moore rode it last year. William Buick goes on. You can see there, 51 days since its last start and 66 days. Both of them ran top 2 over distances, both just under 3,000 meters as their last run before coming in over to Australia. So those are the recent runs of every runner in the field. Now, looking at the map for this race, this is the next thing you want to pay really close attention to, is where horses are expected to settle, who's expected to go forward, and what kind of runs that they are going to get. We have mentioned, majority of recent times, horses have been winning from midfield or worse, but it definitely is tempo dependent. Twilight Payments win. Jai McNeil got control out in front. And then Val Declare's win in 2019, they went very, very slow. Val Declare was right there up on speed. So tempo is definitely the key that does either set it up for those horses in the front half or the back half of the field. I think we're going to get at least an average, if not better, tempo. There is speed out wide, horses that want to go forward. And that's whenever that is the case, coupled with, horses drawn underneath that want a forward position, that generally sets up at least an average tempo, if not better. So I think we're going to get truly run a Melbourne Cup. It's not just going to be like an absolute crawl. It's very, very rare that that does happen. So you can just put 80% of your confidence into the fact that you get a truly run race and make your decisions based off of that. The Waterhouse stable have said Just Fine will lead, which is generally the case with their runners. I don't think it can run out 3,200. So that's the other thing you have to consider. Horses that, potentially have good barriers, these low draws. If there are horses that go forward and, can't run out the 3,200, they have that tendency to come back into their faces, which being able to pick up and build momentum again in a 3,200-meter race is very, very difficult, and not many horses can do that. This year we have a fairly light-weighted Melbourne Cup. 55.5 kilos is the top weight, so you don't have any horses carrying like the 57.5, or even 58 kilos. And it's fairly compressed weight scale as well. So they're just some things to consider. But one thing I really don't like is when horses fall back into their lap and they kind of get held up with nowhere to go. Last year, without a fight, during the run, did look in a very, very tricky position, but was extremely well ridden by Mark Zahra, being able to slide away from that fence, and kind of the horse was traveling so well, and the gaps just appeared as he was able to edge away to the right-hand side. It worked out very, very well for them. We're going to run through each horse one by one, but I think we're going to get a strong tempo, and the horse that can run out the 3,200 meters is going to be the one that wins the race off of that, and it's not going to be as tactical of an affair. I'll start with number one, Voban. This horse started favorite in the Melbourne Cup last year, dropped out to finish, I think 14th was the official finishing position. I think I've gone too far down past it. Here it goes, right here. So finished 14th, beaten 3.4 or 13.4 lengths. Carried 55 kilos that day, has to carry 55.5 in the race this year, so slightly worse weighted. Trained by William Mullins, he has said that he's trained the horse differently leading in, and you'll notice it's different preparation. They had 92 days between runs leading in last time, coming off a 2,400-meter Group 3 win. This time around, only a 51-day freshen up, coming off 3,300-meter run and a 2,800-meter run, plus plenty of fitness with another two 2,800-meter runs and a 4,000-meter race at Ascot in Group 1 grade. This time around should have plenty of fitness in its legs. I think the bookie of William Buick is a good option. I don't think there's like a great deal between him and Ryan Moore. So it's not like, well, we've got a huge jockey upgrade or anything this year. Definitely is a chance, but I think at 650, could have it slightly longer, more so the $7.50, $8 range. Wouldn't be surprised if it pushes out just that little bit more. I think last year at the 550, that was definitely too short. And even though the setup has changed, it was well beaten last time around and pretty much did have every chance in that race. Was up on speed, and kind of the field did invert last year, with majority of the horses in the back half, all the ones coming to the fore, and the horses in the front half all dropping away. So it was potentially not suited by that. Absurd was kind of in that same boat, but did stick on better than Voban did. So definitely would have it more so at the $7.50, $8 mark. Number two, Bakaro. Barrier 21 is the main thing against this horse. I feel like if it had drawn barrier 8, 10, 12, somewhere just in the middle, this horse could have been $4.50 kind of chance for this race, but is around the $6.50, $7 range due to the map that Joe Moreira is going to have to steer from. As mentioned, he did run second on Solcombe last year, went out to last, spent a lot of the straight zigzagging, which definitely with a clear running would have kept the margin on Without a Fight a lot closer. Bakaro comes through the Caulfield Cup when running second. Had barrier 7, was back in the field. Duke de Sessa, who won the race, was right up there on speed. Land Legend had a good run as well, was 5 lengths behind Bakaro. Bakaro, the closing speed was really important. Really exceptional the way it hit the line. Ran sub 12 seconds between 400 and 200 meters, and then was the fastest horse over the final 200 meters of that race. That gives you the indication that the step up to 3,200 should be okay. Stable, Chris Waller is confident the horse will run 3,200 based on all reports, ready to go. just needs to overcome the draw that it has to set up with. Going through its form prior to the Caulfield Cup, ran second in the Turnbull behind Viestastina, who, as we all know, came out and won the Cox Plate by a big margin, broke Winx's track record in the process, and James McDonald was standing up with 50 meters to go. So he could have won by a lot further if fully pushed out. That form is really good. Like, that's the best form we have in Australia leading into this race. Bakaro probably wins the Caulfield Cup as well if it's just that little bit closer in the run. Doesn't have to make a huge, long, sustained run that it had to there, and did beat a number of key rivals, as we mentioned. Another 6 runners from this field, if you also include Zardozi, were all behind Bakaro in that race. So I definitely think is one of the key chances to be winning if it does get the right run from out there with that tricky draw. Prior to that, did win the Underwood over the 1800 meters and also won up in Randwick, beating Hinge. Hinge is a bit of a non-winner, but is one that kind of runs around in the placings. I think it's run 2 third placings since then, and definitely wasn't beaten far on Saturday. I think half a length was the official margin. Morero be keen to win a Melbourne Cup. It's one of the trophies that he has been chasing, and this would have been the target race for him for his time in Australia. So I think Bakaro definitely a major hope. Number 3, Circle of Fire. It's drawn the widest barrier out there in barrier number 24. This horse has previously won the Sydney Cup. It sat 3 wide when winning that, was without cover and ran out the 3200 meters strongly. So we have seen previously it's capable of running the distance and running it out strongly to win. Don't think it's just going all that well. It's beaten almost 14 lengths in the Caulfield Cup by Duke de Sessa, and wasn't running on or making up ground by any means. Prior to that, was 6.5 lengths off the Viestastina Bakaro photo in the Turnbull. The key here with this horse, Mark Zara gets on board, carries 54 kilos. Zara has won the past 2, rode Gold Trip in 2022, and then jumped off Gold Trip to then ride Without a Fight last year and steered that to the win. He'll need to get this like absolutely perfect from out there in barrier number 24, and this horse definitely needs to improve. This has obviously been the target race for it, so sometimes you just have to be a little bit cautious with horses that don't really look like they're doing all that much, but the intention is just getting it right for that one run. So I'd be like definitely shocked if Circle of Fire won, but I wouldn't be like absolutely surprised, if that makes sense, with the combination with stable, jockey, and what they're capable of doing. But I think everything will need to go absolutely perfectly to plan for Circle of Fire to win. And it's probably like a top 10 chance if it definitely gets everything go its way from that barrier. But definitely needs a lot of improvement. Number 4, Warp Speed. This is the only Japanese runner in the field. It ran 13th in the Caulfield Cup. That was his first run in Australia. I think it was kind of just there for the run. They weren't trying to win the Caulfield Cup on it and setting it for this race. It's all its form over in Japan is more so the 3,000 meter distances. Will be suited from barrier number 3, especially if they run them along. It's one that should see out a fast run 3,200 meters. But just with the jockey booking, etc., I'm just not keen to get involved. I think is about the right price at around that $30 mark. I wouldn't have it much longer, but I definitely wouldn't want it too much. I wouldn't have it a sub $25, that's for sure. The things in its favor is obviously the barrier factor can go forward, and Japanese racing style, if they go along in a fast tempo, this horse will be suited. But another one that I think is a top 10 chance, but nothing really more than that. Kovala, this is an interesting runner. It's coming through the Cox Plate where it finished 6th, beaten almost 12 lengths. It's on trial at the distance. They've never run the 3,200 meters for it. Hasn't won for over 500 days since the 2023 Queensland Derby. The thing with this horse is if you look through a lot of its recent runs, had a few runs over the 2,200 meters earlier this year, but majority of its runs are all in this like kind of mile distance, 1,500, 1,600 meters. And now to go to the 3,200 meters. Zara rode this horse last start. He's on Circle of Fire. So Damien Lane goes on board for the Waller stable. Definitely have to be wary of it, but hard to take at around the $20 mark. Feel like with this runner, with the form that is coming through, is having to step up the 1200 meters. They're following kind of the same, a very similar setup to Very Elegant, but definitely don't think this horse is off the class, that's for sure. And definitely can't have it to be winning. Number 6, Sharp and Smart. It's had 22 starts for 6 wins, ran third in the Moonee Valley Cup. This is one that I did mention when we spoke about that race. It was heavily under the whip. Williams was really riding along, pulled the whip before, like as they were coming towards the bend there, and was dropping out, and then picked up and hit the line again without really threatening behind Akita Sushi. Michael D goes on board, drops 6 kilos for that from that run, so is well weighted from that perspective. Kind of feel like this horse is slightly better than a 50s chance. Wouldn't have it like under 30, but I feel like its ride price is at 35 to 40, so I feel like it's slightly a bit of value at 50s. Personally, I don't make a habit of backing multiple runners. I always just like to go with one horse in a race or not bet at all. But it's one that caught the eye as definitely another one of horses that is a top 10 chance. Just fine. 1-2 back at Flemington in Group 3 grade when leading all the way, got complete control there. Then went to the Moonee Valley Cup over the 2500 and dropped out. Can't really see it running out the 3200 meters strong enough to be winning this race, especially if we get anything more than a average tempo. Its only chance is if they get real control out in front and nothing puts pressure on, and John McNeil can just run his own race, which we have seen him do before on Twilight Payment. But I don't think it's the year for Just Fine. Land Legend, this is an interesting runner. Zach Purden rides Land Legend, sticks with this horse through the Caulfield Cup where it ran third. Does need a bridge, a 5-length margin on Bakaro, and there's no weight swing or anything in its favor. Bakaro definitely was like that second is technically ideal as it doesn't have to carry like 55.5 kilos coming in if it had have won that race. But Land Legend, Barra 18 will need a good run. I think this may suit this horse. It's one that does have a tendency to get keen during the run. This Caulfield Cup was wanting to thrash about on the fence with that bit of cover. Now, Zach Burton put it into the race and loomed up like it was a huge chance on the bend, but just kind of peaked on the run. Now up to the 3200, has had 2 runs over 2400. I feel like definitely is a question mark on the distance. Wouldn't surprise me to see it run it out. $13 with Bet365 currently. Probably should switch this. We'll switch this to what the best odds available are. $15 with Sportsbet is the best price. I feel like that's not, too short, but it's definitely not value either. I feel like around if this horse got to 20s, then it probably would be a bet. But I think the thing in its favor is the wide draw, because from there, Purdy can just keep it in that little bit more clear air without getting cluttered up by other horses, which should allow it to relax a little bit more in the run. The concern, obviously, that it got keen over the 2400, now going up to 3200, where they'll go a slightly slower tempo. Will it, cause it to over race even more? Kind of has that same profile as Very Elegant as well, a horse that wants to over race with the Waller stable, but then did come out and win this race. So, and one that definitely wouldn't surprise, definitely would have it as, finishing in the top 6 and kind of in that 5th or 6th position. Number 9, Absurd. This is the horse that Purden rode last year. It loomed up like it was going to be the winner at the top of the straight, and then peaked on the run, finishing 7th, beaten 5.5 lengths. Carried 53 kilos last year, carries 52 this year, so it's better set up than Voban going in. Karen McAvoy takes the ride, has previously won this race, so has that experience coming off 2,900 meter win at Chester in listed grade. Barrier 7 gives him every chance from there. I feel like this horse right price is around that $10 to $12 range, and do think the market has that pretty much spot on. 52 kilos, well weighted. and definitely wouldn't be surprised to see it winning. Number 10, Athabaskan. This horse is coming off a St. Ledger win up in Sydney at Randwick, Group 3 grade, 2,600 meters back on the 19th of October. Prior to that, did run 8 lengths behind Land Legend and Zardozi. So does have a fair bit of ground to make up on those runners. Drops to 52 kilos, and Land Legend and Zardozi, or Land Legend, first of all, is carrying 2 kilos more than it had to in that 2,400 meter race. And Zardozi, let's double check the difference for it, is carrying 1 kilo less. So Athabasca, not really all that well suited. You could say a touch better against Land Legend, but just in general, not really. Probably a horse that probably should run out the 3,200 meters. Don't have a great deal of issue with it doing that. Barrier number 2 gets a soft run, but would be pretty surprised to see it winning a race of this standard. And kind of did just fall in ahead of Wycliffe to be winning that race. Number 11, nice choice. Won't spend too much time. Ran 5th in the Bendigo Cup. Just kind of plodding away along the inside. Prior to that, was beaten 16.5 lengths in the Caulfield Cup. Needs to improve dramatically to be winning. Akita Sushi won that Group 2 Moonee Valley Gold Cup. Billy Egan rode that day. Jamie Carr goes on board, drops 4 kilos. Barrier number 10. That gives Jamie Carr plenty of options from there. And this horse probably goes close to getting the run of the race, if not close to it. My concern with it is it only beat Serpentine in that Gold Cup by half a length. And, Serpentine hasn't really done a great deal when it's run in this race in previous years. And the other thing is Akita Sushi had absolute run of the race. Like Billy Egan couldn't have ridden this horse any more perfectly to win. So I just have that slight concerns. Whenever horses are just coming off absolutely perfect runs, I'm always that little bit wary of them than going into a much tougher race. But the fact that it gets run of the race, car steering, you can't fully rule it out. Number 13, One Smooth Operator, Geelong Cup winner in its first up run in Australia, won that race by 2.3 lengths. Interpretation running second. Interpretation ran 6th in last year's Melbourne Cup. So that line through it is definitely good. My concern with One Smooth Operator, and the reason I feel like the $9 is a touch short right now, and it's more a $12 chance, $13 chance, is because of the vet issue. And with that you really need to be at 100%. And with the rules nowadays, like this horse probably is at 100%, but you're definitely taking a risk putting your money on it with that concern over, how much is that going to affect its horse. Whenever you have an issue with your leg, then it's going to affect you running 2 miles. And that's literally what the case is with this horse. The other slight concern I have with it, majority of its runs, it's had 38 career starts, 27 of them have come on synthetic. Now, in Australia, synthetic form, you really can't pay that much attention to when they're going onto grass tracks. You can forgive it a little bit though, because it did bolt in the Geelong Cup, but I am definitely wary of it. Another one that probably gets an ideal map. Williams are trying to be looked for 1 out, 1 back, or 3 pairs back in the running line from there. So I can see it getting every possible chance. Williams knows how to win this race. He's riding well at the moment. But there's a few question marks that I think under double digits is too short. Number 14, Zardozi. This is the horse that I feel like the stable are trying something a little bit tricky here. So ran second in the Metropolitan up in Sydney in a photo with Land Legend. Gets a 3 kilo weight swing on that horse from that race. Then met at what the weights are going to be tomorrow in the Caulfield Cup. And there was 2.2 lengths between them. And Zardozi probably had its chance to go past Land Legend. I find it difficult to see it going past over 3,200 meters unless it just improves dramatically. They raced it on Saturday in the Empire Rose when beaten 2.5 lengths behind a Tissue. Was a really, really nice one. Now up to the 3,200. This is a horse that, with this setup, I wouldn't be surprised if it won, just absolutely jumped out of the ground and won. But backing it is another story. Feel like for this horse, the $15 to $17 range is the right price. I feel like $12 is a touch of unders right now. It's very, very hard to gauge exactly where it's at because of the prep that they're bringing in, but is definitely a major chance. Yeah, I feel like for Zazo, he's 15. It's right price. Number 15, Sea King gets barrier number 1. Holly Doyle takes the ride here. It has the form lines of winning the Bendigo Cup, winning that race by almost 4 lengths, had a Barclay Square Star Vega. Also ran just in behind one smooth operator. I think it finished behind it. There was, bring up the results here. Ran just ahead of one smooth operator, sorry. So they finished 6th and 7th over overseas before coming over to Australia. So those two are really tied together. Seeking from barrier number 1 probably gets a little bit of traffic issues from there. So Holly Doyle will need to extricate into clear air at the right time. I can see this horse, running a good race, especially with a soft run from that low draw, and definitely luck will come into the equation of being able to find a gap at the right time. Those top 15 runners is pretty much the bulk of the market. As you get to 16 and beyond, there's only 2 horses that are below $60 prices, and that's Interpretation and St. George. So outside of that, like Valiant King, has only had the 1 career win so far from 11 starts. Ran 9th in the Caulfield Cup, has a lot of improvement to come to be able to win a race like this. So you definitely rule it out. Fancy Man ran 6th in that Caulfield Cup, beating almost 10 lengths. Barry number 19 and also Barrow 22 makes it tough for both those runners. Interpretation ran 2nd to one smooth operator in the Geelong Cup. The Equicast going on is the key knock for this horse. As I said, ran 6th in this race last year. If without that issue, I feel like would definitely be a chance here, especially from Baron number 14 and in with 50 kilos. But with that, have to be against it. Manso for the Wally Yard, Declan Bates rides, finished 7th, beating 3.5 lengths in the Moonee Valley Cup. Definitely needs to improve coming to this another one with only 2 wins from 21 starts. So it makes it difficult. Mostly cloudy. He's been given a freshen up. I think it had a trial as well since its last start at Flemington when beating 6 lengths to just fine. Barra 16, not ideal and not going well enough to be winning. Positivity, 1-3 back to secure its spot in the race, beating home Future History in a super bunch finish there. Then was beaten 2.5 lengths by Just Fine and then tailed off, beaten 5 lengths in the Moonee Valley Cup last start. Don't think it's going well enough. Winona Costin riding at Barrow 20 looks too tough for it. Number 22, St. George. This horse closed off well to finish 5th, beaten 3 lengths. Finished pretty much alongside Sharp and Smart. It's at $26. Sharp and Smart is at $61 currently as the best price. Do think that's why Sharp and Smart should more so be in that 30 to 40 range, and then St. George kind of in that similar price range. Still lightly raced with the Mars stable and in with 50 kilos. And then you have the map, Barrier 23, Rachel King, who rode over in the USA just on the weekend. So making the flight back to take the ride here. Barrier 23 looks very tough. Has previously run well in a Group 2 over 3,200 meters when 2nd to Acceleration, who snuck up the fence. The map kind of looked the winner of that race, but Acceleration, Harry Coffey drove through along the inside. Gets in with 50 kilos, but with that shape from barrier number 23, don't think it's going well enough either to be winning here at this stage. And then number 24, Trust in You. It's trialed up at Kensington, leading in, and prior to that ran behind Athabascan in the St. Ledger over 2,600 meters. Likely runs out 3,200 meters strongly and has barrier number 5, but I don't think it's quite at the level of the rest of these. So the horses that I feel like are the genuine winning chances, Voban, Bakaro, your Circle and Fire and Warp Speed wouldn't surprise me if they had won. Kovala, I feel like just the 3,200 is too much of a stretch. Then Land Legend is a definite chance with the right run from Barry 18. Absurd is definitely a chance, gets the right map and is better suited this year. And outside of that, I feel like Akita Sushi gets run in the race, but is a touch under the odds after having every chance last start. One smooth operator, it's too short currently with the issues. Zardozi, a little bit of a question mark, and Sea King may have traffic issues. So I feel like the winner is going to come from your one of Voban, Bakaro, or absurd, and you could throw Lamb Legend in that boat. I feel like these runners down here, your 12, 13, and 14 are the one and 15, sorry, are the ones that are just taking up a little bit too much of the market. Haven't right now, as I record this, decided which horse I'm definitely going to back, but it's going to be one of the three that I mentioned as the key winning chances. All my bets I post in the racing show, and as I said, I always narrow it down to just one horse I want to back. And for tomorrow, Melbourne Cup is going to be probably my smallest betting race of the day, or at least equal smallest. Reason for that is you just don't need to get carried away on this race with so many different form lines combining together. You got internationals and the question mark of a lot of these horses after 3,200 meters. There's always, better betting opportunities where you can find horses that are set up perfectly going into a race and back those ones instead. So for tomorrow, I'll be betting across all Flemington, Randwick, Eagle Farm, Morpheville, and Ascot over in WA. To get everything I'm betting and get that in the racing show, I'll put the link to that in the description. We're sitting at about 1,400 units profit since October 2021 when I started the racing show. Prior to that, bet full time for 9 years before even starting that. But wanted to share what I was doing to help other people be profitable betting on horse racing. Because that's the thing, is like Melbourne Cup's just one day and one race of the year. When it comes to horse racing, what you want to do is set up a process and a system that allows you to be profitable every single month. In the racing show, we've gone 36 full months now, and October, we actually just finished October being the 37th month. We just ticked into November. I got to keep up here. And across those 37 months now that it's been, we've only had 2 losing months. So 35 of 37 months have finished in profit. One of the losing months was about 20 units loss, and then there was a 2-unit loss in one of the other months. But the average profit is just under 40 units when you add in all 37 months together. And when I say we're up 1,400 units profit, we're only ever staking a maximum of 3 units, but they're super rare, the 3-unit bets. Generally, like on a Saturday, for example, when we've got 20 bets, there's generally only 3 or 4 2-unit bets, and majority bets are just 1.5 units. So over the years, we've built it up to 1,400 units profit so that everyone can have that process that they can follow to win every single year. And that's what I create with the racing show, to help people do that and follow the selection. So on Monday night, all the plays for Tuesday will be posted. Also in the racing show, you can join on a weekly membership. So you can get Melbourne Cup Day, Oaks Day on Thursday, and then Champions Day on Saturday. So it'll be the 3 meetings included this week with the weekly membership. So it's definitely a really good time to test it out, see how it works, see what it's all about, and see how you can start using this system to consistently make profits every month on the horse racing. So good luck tomorrow. Make sure you just treat it like you would any other race day and just enjoy the excitement of Melbourne Cup Day. It's definitely one of the most fun days of the year with so many races going on. And I really, really love when, there's really good quality horses all lining up all over the place. It's definitely the best for betting. Other things going on, we have the NFL, which we've just this morning locked in. Our last 5 weeks of the NFL have all finished in the profit. I think it's now, out of our last 53 bets, we've won 39 or 40 of them. So going really well in the NFL. We've started the NBA season. We're about almost 2 weeks in now to the NBA season. Already well in front, starting the season strongly there. And, as the season's going with the bet finders, it allows us to have more information to make better betting decisions as well. So the profits that we made only build on as we go through the season. So really exciting times. Hope to see you in the racing show. Check out, see what it's all about. If you have any questions, put them in the description or send an email. I'll put the email in the description as well, support@investor.bet.com.au. Make sure you do that ASAP so I can get back to you with any questions that you have. Good luck tomorrow. Appreciate you guys watching and following the channel. Hopefully this video was insightful and help you make your decisions for the Melbourne Cup race.